What happens when the person responsible for keeping everyone else safe during a global pandemic realizes they've lost their own spark? Today's guest went from managing life or death decisions of essential workers during the pandemic to walking away from a prestigious SVP role, not because she failed, but because she succeeded at something that nearly broke her. I'm Kim Bohr, host of Courage to Advance, and today's guest is Suzi Potts, who's here to talk about her career transition journey, the doubt that she experienced along the way, and the courage she demonstrated when she decided to bet on herself. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. Suzi, welcome to Courage to Advance.
Thank you. Good to see you, Kim. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So briefly walk us through your background. You have such a dynamic experience that I think is going to be really, really fun to talk about in your journey with us today.
Yes. So I think the way to encapsulate it efficiently, because we're getting a little bit older, it's long, but there are some consistent factors that have really shaped it. One is beverage alcohol. And so I'd start there. It's a really interesting dynamic industry. I wasn't necessarily what you would expect to be in it. And I will say doing HR in it has been a journey where my favorite line is, you can't even make that up. Like, wow. It's a real wow moment. Wow from just the people I've met, the things I've gotten to do, the places I've drank wine to just, it's an interesting product. It's an interesting history it's definitely cyclical, just like the cycle that we're in right now from an economics and business perspective. It's like a Harvard Business Review case that just keeps repeating itself. Mm-hmm. So wine and spirits, number one, and that includes luxury, small. I've essentially worked for the largest distributor of wine and spirits in the country through the merge of two family businesses, the Chaplin family and the Glazer family, which is now Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits. And I've had the privilege of watching that grow from 5 markets to almost every market in the world or in the country. They're not international, but every state in the US, which is a pretty incredible growth trajectory, especially for a privately held, family-owned organization. That's another nugget that runs through in my history, privately held, family-owned. After 16 years there, I decided to go to where it happens, dirt to bottle, where the magic happens in the bottle. And I had the opportunity to join the Wente family owned, 6th generation, longest family run winery in California and in the United States, and the family of Chardonnay. So if you don't know it, drink it, Riva Diva.
Yum.
And so that's when I joined them. And so that was exceptional. And I've been supporting and partnering with them on their people strategy for the last 8 years. And I was really drawn there because Carolyn led it, Carolyn Wente, and she's just had such a flawless career in the space. Mm-hmm. And I've had many wonderful mentors, but there weren't a lot of female strong mentors. And so she's just one of a kind. And then there's, of course, others, but she was one of the reasons why I went there along with Amy Hoops, who was the president at that time. I was very attracted to female run, female owner, female led, and our head of winemaking and so on and so on. And then the other factor for me has been education. So I've actually got the practical, tactical expertise, living it, breathing it. And then the whole trajectory of my career in wine and spirits, I went to school practically. I went to school to become a doctor in industrial and organizational psychology. And what that is long and short for is I became a business psychologist who studies human behavior in the workplace.
So you spent a number of years as a senior HR executive. Talk a little bit about that gap you kept seeing. What were companies getting wrong about their people strategy, particularly in this industry?
Yeah, I think the one part that people didn't realize was the translation of cost to human capital. And I think the P&L is really a lagging indicator. So that seat in the room from a finance perspective on a board or in a leadership capacity is critical. But it's a lagging indicator. And so the leading indicator is really, how are the humans behaving? Like, what are we seeing, breathing, touching, feeling? And I've seen just that's what I think a lot of organizations miss is it gets to the point of a catastrophe or a burning platform that you honestly can't recover from. And generally that's when they think I need my HR person or I need my HR strategist. Because until then, sometimes they're like, oh, Kim, as long as I have the CEO and the CFO in the room, I don't really need that people lady. And so, or people man, I mean, for that matter, just, I don't need the people discipline. Well, you and I look at that totally differently. There's not a lot of people who are strategic though, like yourself, who's leading a company and also a strategist, who have our expertise. So 2% of all CEOs in the world have been former CHROs or led people functions. So we can see what we're up against. We're always trying to prove the value of our expertise and knowledge to people who are not used to hearing from us and may have had experience with people who just said, you're going to get sued, you're going to get sued, you're going to get sued versus, what's going on here and how can we get better results by addressing actually what's happening? So that was the niche I really started to see was people need a strategist and a chief level partner during certain high stakes business circumstances. So that can be growth when it's really fun for you and I. And we're like, yes, let's get in the rocket ship and we're going to create this new discipline or we're going to found a new location or we're going to increase in scale. And, we've proved that out with the financial models. And then there's also the hard times where I get brought in a lot, which is the P&L is not reflecting what we believe it should. And thus we have to make really hard business decisions, which involve humans. So how do we do that with diplomacy, care, compassion, but also make the hard business decision? And so that's really what I founded the organization on was family owned that are generationally moving the business. It normally the third generation's the marker. Like if you make it past the third, it's generally a good sign, but that's a pivotal moment. And so that's where I found my sweet spot, which is small to medium size. And even I've scaled to really large, but generally family held because they can share openly and honestly what the real issues are. Generally, it involves owners whose names are on the door. Some are working in the business, out of the business. And they also don't have an external board of advisors that are making decisions about the company that are in that private equity space, or they're not different stakeholders outside of the company. Like those are the decision makers. And so that tends to work really well for my personality because I'm a pretty straight shooter. So that's kind of where I founded the business. And what I saw was when you're winding up or winding down, you need an excellent strategy people partner.
Do you find that at least in the experience you've had, that this that is a very desirable trait that these family-owned businesses are really wanting to grasp onto, that people strategy component? Or were some of the challenges you've had to get them that you faced to get them there?
Yeah, I would say some are enlightened and have really high EQ and inherently, like they haven't necessarily been trained in it, but you can kind of spot them, Kim, like your experience, like you just see them in a room and you're like, wow, they look at things a little differently. Like what the questions they're asking are so unique, or they really want just what's best for their family and themselves. Like sometimes it even starts there. They want success for the business and they want people in their family playing in the right seats.
Yeah.
So normally I can get there pretty quickly. Like, here's what's happening. And first, let's start with ourselves. Like, are we architecting the bus in the right way? Do we have the right drivers? Like, let's take 5 seats and we'll start with ourselves because everyone likes to talk about themselves. And then you earn trust. And then from there, I think they're all in because you really can very quickly and cost effectively translate easy transactions into actual dollars and cents.
What have you found when some of these people are on this journey before they've become more enlightened? What have been some of those pivotal moments that they've said, oh boy, we really need to bring you in?
Yeah.
Or we need that. Something's not working and we're not sure what it is.
Yeah. I would say first, it's just admitting that it's not working. I think
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing when your name is on the door and you're trying to lead something and you've hedged your bets on a family business and you've got community and you've just got a lot of eyes on you. And I think it's a very different feeling than most of us understand because it's like we go to work and it's someone else's, but they go to
Yeah.
work and it's theirs.
Yep.
And there's that fear of letting their whole legacy down and the brand and the reputation. And so I think it really starts with just them being honest. What got us here, will it get us there? But I think it really starts with just an acknowledgement of the landscape in what I do in wine and spirits and bev alc and cannabis has changed just so dramatically. And it's felt almost like overnight. I mean, we went from the global pandemic to fires to, I mean, you name it, and the wine industry's been through it. I mean, you talk to someone from Napa and it's called grit and the school of hard knocks. Because if you're still willing to make wine and be an artist of that history, you have very, very deep roots to it and you care about what you're doing. And my biggest learning lesson is summed up in one sentence, and it's get comfortable with being told no.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like another big dose of reality of like, even though they knew me, liked me, I worked with them before, I had no credibility.
Yeah.
I had endless credibility where I came from. And I didn't realize how valuable that was. Like, it's just, I came into a room, I told people what to do and they did it. And now I'm trying to sell myself and I'm a one-woman show.
So how did you build your confidence then? 'Cause, in that first year of up against all the no's or the doubts.
I mean, I just started to really look around and say, other people have done it.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't done it in a down economy. And then my husband lost his job. He got laid off. So that got really frightening. So scarcity became real for me. So it was like kind of the school of hard knocks. I'm like, wow, I thought I had this luxury path. And now I'm like, whoa, the sense of urgency and the tightness to close business has accelerated tremendously.
Yeah.
And I also have tremendous runway because I could do this for a while and not drive revenue. But as a businesswoman, that didn't make sense to me either because people left and right were saying, do you want to come and do this?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that might be smarter if this isn't working. So I was always constantly 1 foot in, 1 foot out, interviewing actively for going back into corporate. And so finally I had to sit down and just say, are you going to do this or not? Like, are you actually going to bet on yourself? And 52 weeks out of the year, you are going to be meeting with people and hustling and selling your ideas? Or are you going to fold and pack up the Barbies and go back home and go to corporate?
Yeah.
It was a tough decision. I mean, there were a couple things that really turned my head where I'm like, oh man, I didn't even know this job existed. I like the team. This would be great. It solves a lot of my immediate concerns, but I'm not betting on myself. And that's what the medicine is that I've given so many other people. So I'm like, I'm really not taking the medicine. And that doesn't feel genuine. And it's hard. And of course, I knew it was hard, but no one prepares you for how hard it's going to be. I aligned myself with people who did it well. And I listened to all the feedback and then I tuned out what didn't serve. You're not qualified. You'll never get it. Other people have done it. There's so many coaches. We don't really need you. All that stuff.
So you moved into this role of essentially being a fractional CHRO. What is that bringing to organizations? And, a little bit more about some of like how that model works for people that maybe aren't as familiar with it.
Yeah. So I think what I'll start with is I really kind of had to earn that. So the fractional CHRO is new to Wente and new to me. So the commitment I had was I will become a consultant and I will do all the high stakes work that is needed, but I was not a fractional chief HR officer. I was behind the curtain doing everything that was needed to keep the wheels on the bus. And I did that for 3 years and I over delivered. And so then it was time for me again to say, now every other client that I'm securing, I'm at the table. I'm in the boardroom. I'm only dealing with the highest level constituents. And that's where I'm at my best. And so now I'm not going to be serving Wente well if I don't tell them like, hey, I think we're at another touch point. We did that in the last 90 to 120 days. And I just thoughtfully went to them and said, you need strategy again, back, full force and you need a presence in your leadership team. That is not what we're doing today, because we are at a point that's pivotal, but we're going to be facing many more hard decisions. And I'm already trusted by the family and the board. So that's kind of been a natural fit for me. So as a consultant, you go to that room a lot, right? Like they invite you there a lot because they're like, come here. And you're like, but the SLT room is the different room where you're like, I'm not on the team. And so we needed to remove me from the team. And then I needed to thoughtfully say, I need to go back to the team. I need to go back into where the magic happens, because now they need that again.
Yeah.
But they don't need it every day.
Right.
And so that's what I explained to them is like, you need me for seasons and reasons, and we need to do it in a contained way, because operational HR is not my strength or passion. And you have people in the company who are doing that better than I do.
Yeah.
And I work with them. So then it became, gosh, that would solve a lot of things that aren't working as well right now. So I really just looked at the state of what I delivered to them, and I told them where I thought I delivered well and where it fell short. I would take ownership of the fall short, but some of it was process. Yeah. And it was how we structured my relationship with the business. And so we unpacked that. And now I am fractional CHRO there. And it will give me license to really, truly only position myself that way going forward. And what that means for a company is, if you can't afford it the whole time, don't not do it.
Right.
Buy it in small dividends. And so that's the approach I take with all my other clients is half my time is committed to with Wente. And then the freeway I have is to get in whatever other organizations that are aligned to my way of thinking, and that can't afford someone full time. It doesn't make sense for them. And so I'm methodical in being able to recommend that, and then build the system around me so that all is flowing through the system well, so that if I'm not there, there's not a bottleneck.
Yeah. I really appreciate how you've described that, because I think that it feels very binary sometimes for organizations. And when you think about how critical that strategic people partner is, that's often missing in smaller organizations. And it shouldn't be a something that they just can't even
afford or fathom.
Yeah. And I like how you also really described, being so aware of how the situation was changing, that you were having that open dialogue around how what they needed was changing, and that the role you needed to play, they needed to evolve as well. And I think that's really a key takeaway for people listening about how do you build trust? There's so much trust building in the relationship and how you've described how you approach business. I think that really stands out.
And I think I also had to be okay with it might not work.
Yeah.
I just really had to put my faith in something else and just be like, it's going to work out how it's supposed to. And if it's not my next chapter, cool. That's okay, because I've left it in a better place. I've been my genuine, true self. I've been the best leader I possibly can. And I had to accept that that could mean negative, unintended consequences for my P&L.
Yeah.
Because it was better for their business.
Absolutely. And that's a true partner.
And I think a lot of consultants can't do that.
For those listening that perhaps are maybe stuck in this, like, a transition of their own, and maybe it's I think I can do this, or I'm not so sure, whether it's about their business or their career, what's your advice to them to try to move forward?
Yeah, it's a good one. Ask for feedback from people that you trust their input, and listen to what they tell you. The other thing I've realized is my flaws in any work environment are the same working for myself or working for others. And I know them better than anyone. Like, sometimes I have to listen with both ears. I'm often asked to be the expert. That's easy for me to play. Letting people be the expert is harder for me, but that's because I've worked so hard to create credibility. So I get in my own way, which is I have to be a doctor in order to be credible. Not true at all. I would guide everyone to say that's absolutely false, and you can be credible without having any of those things. Hard for me to do because of just that's how I grew up in corporate America. It's just, I thought each time I coached myself to do the next hardest thing and go to the next gold ring. And that was my trajectory, very traditional, not like how our people think today. And thank God they've got it better, because I don't think all those ring climbs were necessary.
Right.
So I think it's take the advice and counsel from people who have your best interest at heart, who are going to give you honest to goodness feedback, and then balance that with just what you know to be true about yourself.
I like that. So if we have leaders listening that are clear that they need some type of support around strategic thinking for their people planning, and they just don't know where to start, or more so they're concerned they can't afford it, what would you say to them?
I'd say you absolutely can't afford to not do it, because you're already compromising. Your results are reflective of exactly the things that you're not addressing.
So someone who's listening, if they were to be thinking about this even 6 months from now, what do you hope sticks with them from this conversation that they might pop back in?
Yeah. If you believe that you are ready to bet on yourself, others believed it light years before.
And I think that's so relevant, whether it's about transitioning for yourself into a different point of your career, or as a business leader or owner saying like, oh, there is a path forward for me getting this information and finding out what we need in a way that I thought we couldn't before. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. Once you're ready, it's like when the student's ready, the teacher appears. Yes. It's like that yogi philosophy. I'm a yoga teacher. That's my other place where I get very grounded. Have other hobbies.
Yeah.
And diversify your portfolio. So I looked at my life as a pie, and mine was over-indexed on the work pie. And I've always been over-indexed. I worked full-time and I went to school to become a doctor. That just over-indexed out the wazoo here. I mean, that just screams over-indexed. Overachiever, type A, not having as much joy and fun. So I just gave my permission to put something in place. I've always gotten on the mat for 25 years, but it was a necessity. And now I teach as a give back.
That's nice.
And that is part of my workflow balance. A couple times a week, I finish at a set time so I can go teach my class and see the other people who keep me grounded in reality and are caring. And if I'm having a hard day, they tell me I'm great.
I love that. So for anybody who wants to, learn more about your work and get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, on LinkedIn. So it's just Dr. Suzi Potts, and you can find it that way and connect with me. I am starting to dabble in social. There'll be a bigger launch there coming up. I have a publicist now, so I've been very quiet on social, but I love Instagram. So I'll be coming for that. I've been practicing behind the scenes. So that'll be coming. I don't have a formal website. I just haven't needed it, to be perfectly honest. It will come in time, but it's really LinkedIn. And it's been all referral for me. So it's relationships. And then it's just blossomed from there. LinkedIn and Suzi at SuziPottsConsulting.com.
Wonderful. Well, Suzi, thank you so much for the conversation. I've really enjoyed just talking through all this with you, because there's no simple answers. And I think you've appreciate the vulnerability you've shown and brought to the conversation so others can also relate to that journey not being a straight line.
Yeah. And Kim, I really appreciate the work you're doing. I applaud your capacity. I applaud the risks you're taking, the creativity you're displaying, your leadership. And I'm honored to have spent an hour with you. It was a highlight of the week, and it's a pleasure. And I know that we're going to continue working together. There's not a lot of women who are as kind and compassionate as you are and successful. And I think you really can have both. And I think that would be my parting message to everyone is you can kick ass and be kind.
Thank you. That warms my heart. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
For our listeners, we have free resources from our conversation today that you can access by visiting couragetoadvancepodcast.com. And remember to like and follow this podcast on your favorite platform so more leaders can benefit from these conversations. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Courage to Advance, where transformative leadership isn't about having all the answers, it's about having the courage to find them.